Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Duty Honor Real Estate, episode 17. And this is an incredible guest, Mr. Daniel Padilla.
Let's go.
Let's go. Welcome
Thank you,
to
Brian.
Duty Honor Real Estate.
Thank you.
You know, fun fact today is this is our first chief warrant officer. So if you guys been in the Army, you know how important those warrant officers are, right?
That's right.
No.
Stuff done.
Yeah. So let's get into it. How did you become a chief warrant officer?
Man, that's a great question. So I started my military career back in 1998, enlisted 13 Fox Fire Support Specialist, advanced in through the ranks very, very quickly in the Army. I went from a private to Sergeant First Class within about 6.5 years. Got selected to be a United States Army Drill Sergeant at Fort Sill. And while I was at Fort Sill, I ran into this guy named Monty Gonzalez. Fun fact about Monty Gonzalez, the movie Green Zone, played by Matt Damon, was loosely based off of Monty Gonzalez's action in Iraq looking for weapons of mass destruction. So where I met Monty Gonzalez at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, at the PX, he approached me and he's like, "Have you ever thought about being a warrant officer?" Never really knew what a warrant officer was. So he coached, mentored me about becoming a warrant officer. And so I submitted my packet, and in 2008, I was selected to be a warrant officer. And that's when I was done with my drill sergeant time and went over to WOX and went through that process. And in 2008, I pinned W01. So I went from Sergeant First Class Padilla to W01, Warrant Officer 1 Padilla. In the field artillery targeting world. So that was my transition from enlisted to warrant officer. So when I retired in 2019, I was a field grade warrant officer, targeting technician, one of the senior guys here at Fort Carson. Served in so many different positions throughout my time, but honestly, my best time in service was when I was the senior targeting officer in Afghanistan under General Nicholson, the Resolute Support Commanding General, being his direct targo, responsible for every kinetic strike in 2016. That's what I did, and that was my best position I ever had, man.
Wow. I mean, I hope people are listening to this story about how literally, off the streets all the way to commanding Afghanistan. I mean, that's incredible. One, thanks for your service, and boom, right?
Boom, let's go.
King of battle. I love how Matt Damon inspired you to join the Army. I'm joking. But no, that's cool how, and it's a cool episode in your life where a senior reached out to you and saw potential.
Yes.
And to me, that's just another reminder that we all need to look at another brother or sister in our ranks and see, hey, we need to grow within. And so I think that's awesome. And I'm sure you're very grateful for that relationship.
Absolutely right. You know, we touch bases every once in a while. One thing, are we allowed to cuss on this? So, you know, one thing he told me when he wrote my letter was, "Don't F it up." You know, he had such a great reputation in the field. He's like, when I endorse this, don't F it up. So that was his message to me.
I love it. I love it. Don't call him a liar, right? You know, no, that's awesome. And in your military career, I imagine, you retired, right? And so you definitely you answered the call of duty, right? Yeah. But then I imagine along the way, there was another call of duty, right? Duty Honor Real Estate, right?
That's right.
So, your military career, I'm sure we could just talk about it for ages, and can't wait to hear, how you apply it to your real estate career. So where was that defining moment in transitioning after a career in the Army?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2019, when I retired, I'll just kind of back it up too. So in 2018, I started making that transition of like, what is Daniel Padilla going to do? And so I started looking at all the GS jobs at Fort Carson, and I was looking at that role, right? And then I went to a networking group downtown in Colorado Springs, and this lady that was there, she approached me. She goes, "You're really good with people. Have you ever considered real estate?" And I'm like, "No, absolutely not. I have not ever considered." So a couple weeks went by. I Googled, how much does a real estate agent make? And I was like, okay, with my retirement and what I have savings, well, my family will be all right. So that was my thought process getting into it. So I got into the business in 2019, straight from retirement. So 6 years post-retirement now, 6 years in the business. And since then, early on, when I first started off, I got lonely in the business. I was like, man, this is sales. It's competitive. You have nobody to collaborate with. Everybody's going to come from different angles and, try to steal a deal from here, whatever. Yeah. So I was like, what do I know? I know how to build teams. I know how to run systems, right? So that's when I realized I need to build a team. So I started recruiting people that were prior service. So at one time I had a retired Air Force guy on my team. He's still on my team. His name's Dwayne Gandy. I had a Navy guy. I had a Marine guy. I had a female Army person. I had some military spouses, and I grew the team up to like 16 people at its peak. And so just trying to connect with our community here in Colorado Springs. We're surrounded by 5 military installations here. So they say 1 out of every 3 residents of Colorado Springs is tied to the Department of Defense. So our network is strong. So that during that transition, when I came in there, I was like, I know how to build teams. I know how to build systems. I know how to lead by example. I know how to show up every single day and get the job done. So I just applied that formula that I learned through my 21 years of service into real estate. And that's how I've been able to help over 500 families buy and sell real estate in the last 6 years.
What I hear here is that you were underwriting your decision, thinking about like, okay, if I'm going to move to this career, what's the average income? What are the pros and cons of moving into a new industry? And that's advice for everyone, is that you have to underwrite your next decision. So great example there. But another great example is how, again, just like that chief who looked at you as potential, you looked at other people as potential to come join your ranks of your team. And so, I always tell people, like, the best talent that you could find are the people you served with. Yeah. It reminds me of me when I hired my XO, James Tabor, if you're listening.
Right on.
He was my XO, and we both went to the academy, and I was like, no, man, I need him in the real estate ranks, right? And so, no, that's a great reminder that talent is to your left and right that you served with. You talk about formula, right? Mm-hmm. And the things you applied to your business and helping all those families and clients, right? Well, what challenges do you think you see in this market for military families, for just clients in general? Would love to see how you transition them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the biggest thing that I've learned over the last 6 years of doing the business day in, day out is that education and understanding of a process of either buying a home or selling a home, a lot of our service members are not familiar with that process. And I'll even be truthful, like I was not very familiar with it either, because even though every time I PCS'd, my family and I, we bought a house, sold a house, whatnot. But, being in the business, a lot of people are uneducated, respectfully uneducated about the process, because for them, it's usually a one-time transaction and they're done. Yeah. Whereas where I try to take that foundation of education and apply it through the process. So keeping people, communication is key, right? Yeah. So communicating with people, showing them the process step by step, expectation management throughout it, and being available to answer questions. I like to tell people I work 24/7. Obviously, we can't do that. We still got to bed down, right? But I'm readily available to address questions that people may have, to ease their concerns throughout the process. So I tell people, like, listen, I go to bed at 8, I wake up at 4. If I don't respond to you, guess what? I'm gonna respond to you. Next day it's coming through. It's coming hot. So expect that. So I just take that foundation of aligning what I know and filling in the gaps where I feel a lot of people are not too familiar with those gaps, and making sure that they can continue to walk in the path in a straight line.
No, love it. I always talk about education leads to empowerment for a lot of our military families, our clients. Real estate, they don't teach that at
No.
school, right? And I love how you're empowering them and educating them that that's a priority for you. It's so important because it's going to give them the confidence to make a decision.
Yeah.
And what I will say to you and to the world, people like Daniel, right? They believe in this vocation. They believe in this real estate profession. So they are 24/7. They are 7-Eleven, right?
Let's
go.
go.
Because they believe that this is a calling to serve. And so I always tell people, like, wear it on your chest. Yeah, I live and breathe this stuff. And why wouldn't you want someone who you're literally employing to like one of your biggest purchases, if not in your whole life, right? Yep. And so without a doubt, I definitely advocate for that. Absolutely. Now talking about advocacy, right? There's a lot of community involvement I've seen you with, right? You have Honor and Remember.
Yeah.
The Red, White, and Blue, which is like an older organization that it's still, I believe, thriving.
Yeah.
So how has like this community service really shaped your career?
So I would even back it up a little bit. Like those community services that I volunteer in, they've really shaped me in this community here. So I found Team Red, White, and Blue after a deployment in 2013. I came back to Colorado Springs and I was like, man, I really don't know anybody here other than on the base installation where I was living off base. So I started looking for things to do. And I had a buddy of mine, retired Command Sergeant Major, just always promoting on social media, Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Red, White, and Blue. I'm like, what is this? So I Googled it again. I went to Google, saw the Team Red, White, and Blue's mission of people, positivity, community, passion, commitment. I was like, that aligns with my family values and who I am as a person of people, active, duty, integrity, love, loyal, and appreciative. Like that's what Padilla is about. So that organization, I sent an email to the volunteer leader here at the time, is Mike Greenwood, and say, hey, I would like more information. He said, hey, join us on a Wednesday night run down here at Acacia Park in Colorado Springs. We're meeting at this time. We're going to do a nice, easy pace and just come out and run. So I started running with them, and I didn't know I was going to fall in love with that Team Red, White, and Blue community. Like literally people that are meeting or either, still active duty, retired, a veteran, of all ages. It was very family oriented. So at one time I was the chapter captain of Team Red, White, and Blue here in Colorado Springs. And I did that for a period of about a year, before I had to deploy again to Afghanistan. But I did that, and I was able to lead Team Red, White, and Blue with my family and get my kids involved. So that organization really has a heart for me because, the one thing I like about that organization, it's a hand up, not a handout, meaning we're trying to encourage veterans to connect with their community through social activities and physical activities instead of, oh, you need this or you need that. No, let's come together. Let's work out. Let's sweat to know a vet. Let's have fun. The other nonprofit that I'm a part of is Honor Remember in Colorado Springs. Well, we know that Colorado Springs has veterans that have passed away, and their spouses or their families are Gold Star families. So through that organization, led by David Earp and Jennifer Earp here and they're up in Castle Rock, but it's the state chapter here. They brought me into this organization, and that one's a little different. The service member is no longer with us, and their families are here. So still letting them know that their loved ones have not been forgotten, and supporting them through means to help them wherever they're at in life, help them and let them know that their loved ones are still remembered and that we're still going to honor. So every year we do around September 11 timeframe, we do a run. And the last few years, we ran from Fort Carson all the way up to Fort Logan. 3 days, 100 miles, 1 mile. Every mile we stop and we call out loved ones' names and we put a flag down. And it was really special and it's touching. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Is that sometimes the family members, spouse or whoever's there is there to hear their loved ones' names called out. And then we've even had some family members even run their service members mile in honor of them. So it's very touching. It's a different experience. One organization I'm with, Team Red, White, and Blue is about physical fitness, engagement, community activity. And the other one is to remember the fallen and their family and the Gold Star families are who they are now, and they're allowing their service members' legacy to continue to move forward.
No, thank you for doing that. I mean, proclaiming people's legacy is such an honorable thing to do, and it's something that I wish was just more common just in society, right? Because we're on this earth one time, right?
Yes, sir.
And to proclaim it, especially with that intensity, right? Every mile, 100 miles, proclaiming someone's legacy, that sounds like a sight to see. And one thing that I gathered in that is that you said it, you're like, I didn't really know anybody, right?
Yes.
When you were here. And a lot of veterans are lonely, because we're constantly moving to different communities, different stations. And it's great that you took the initiative to find another group, another tribe, if you will, right, that had the values similar to yours, right? The values that are the same to yours, right? And that's just another tip, right? Another opportunity for veterans or anyone to just go out and reach out to a tribe that is similar to your values, because you're only going to get great connectivity right there, and probably align with the mission as great as what you've been aligning with.
That's correct.
Now in regards to the community impact, right, and serving that, I mean, you just keep taking it up another level. And what I've noticed is how you're connecting with the community using technology, using video, and understanding this world of really technology that we're dealing with in real estate. Mm-hmm. So can you give us some, insights on how you leverage technology to benefit your clients?
Great question. Yes. So technology is, I say communication is king, but technology is queen. So think of it as the infantry. So shoot, move, and communicate. So technology, the way I look at it is like, I employ the most advanced technology or the latest and greatest stuff out there for my clients. And what that looks like is essentially having the right tools in my toolkit so they are readily informed throughout the process. They have the hot sheet of homes coming out. So some of those things like, what is it is simple. I think it's the simplicity of having the right tools to give your clients. A lot of people I've found out don't know how to use your phone to the best of their ability. So learning how to use your phone and making sure that your client understands the information that they're going to see on their phone is relevant to what they want to see through the real estate transaction. So I use social media as a means of connecting with people. And so I'm always shooting videos, shooting content in reference to where a client, a service member, a spouse, wherever they're at, to help build that gap together. Like, hey, listen, I'm a real person here helping you out along the way. You can see my face, you can hear my voice, you can understand me. So I use social media so people can see me where I'm at, because I'm a real person. So like what you see is what you get. It's I'm 5'5", 175 pounds. Like I'm
That's
a
right.
family
Fighting
man. Fighting weight. Let's go. So technology I think is really important. I think it's employing it proper. Far too often you see people that don't have the right tools, and their clients are neglected by that, and that's or not using social media and video content to get your clients the most exposure that they deserve on their listings. I think that's really important, especially in today's day and age. You're gonna meet people, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like that's I got a call yesterday from a gentleman that's getting from Fort down to Fort Cavazos. It was on PCS here in December. My YouTube popped up. He saw it. He reached out, and so
Oh man, I hope people are taking notes here, because this is an intense question right now. Things I'm learning, right? Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. It's funny because the phone, people forget it's really a weapon. It's a tool.
It is.
And I love how you want to really educate your clients on the importance of the tools that are being used by your real estate professional. Another thing I really enjoyed listening was you talk about I'm a real person and really creating that human connection with technology, because we can get real distant real quick. Forget there's humans behind these tools. There's humans behind these profiles, right?
Yeah.
These platforms. And so that's a great reminder to keep the real in real estate, right? Another thing is a reminder to clients out there. Yes, you're hiring Daniel Padilla, right? But it would be a disservice to you if Daniel Padilla didn't use the tools at his disposal, right, to support your mission, right? And so you being that chief warrant officer, that expert in that artillery, right? I mean, in targeting, I mean, it all transcends right into real estate. And so that's a great reminder to everyone that your agents should be using the tools to maximize exposure.
Yeah. I'll just jump in on something real quick on that. So, even though employing advanced technology, making sure clients have the latest and greatest advantages of what's trending in the market, one other aspect that I always told myself in the service is know the basics, right? So a lot of I say I'm very comfortable of doing analog paperwork to get the job done. I've done it so many times of printing out contracts, signing it, taking them to clients.
Going primitive.
I've done that. So you can always employ the advanced, but you got to know the basics. And being able to operate on analog, that's key.
Oh, that's good to know. It's funny. It's like your basic rifleman skills, right? Sports. And so that's a great reminder to all the agents out there, right? If you don't understand the contracts or you don't understand the dynamics of real estate through a transaction and able to explain that, we're going to have a problem, right? So it doesn't matter how, eye candy you are online, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know those fundamentals, because at the end of the day, people want to hold each other accountable. Humans want to see each other, because at the end of the day, they're going to have to make a decision. Now, we've talked about community, we talked about technology, and I think the Pikes Peak region especially is noticing Daniel Padilla, right? I think you're the people's champ, right?
I appreciate that. The People's Choice Award winner.
Yeah. So you won an award at a Real Producers. For anyone listening, it's a real estate franchise. It's a magazine, and it promotes real estate professionals in specific locations. In this case, it's the Pikes Peak region. And Daniel Padilla was voted by the people that you were the People's Choice Award in 2025. So, how do you feel about that?
Man, it touched my heart, Brian. Really, when I went to the award ceremony and to hear my name called, I was totally caught off guard. To hear my name called for that type of award or that level, it's a recognition of, the heart of service of the people that I'm connected with here through Colorado Springs and just nationwide, because a lot of our clients, they move out of here, right? So hearing my name called for the People's Choice Award was a heart-touching moment, showing that people really care about me and they see my work ethic that helps them through their process, and to be recognized amongst my peers and to be recognized by my clients, and that really just, I'm still on cloud nine. It was definitely very, very touching to be able to receive that award that night. Yes.
No, without a doubt, in any work environment, recognition is gold, right? Everyone wants to be identified, because of their work ethic, their values, their success. And so it's awesome when it's voted by peers.
Yeah.
And so, no, congratulations on that. But I think there's something more important than the awards and the community service. It's your own family, right? And in all the podcasts and all the real estate gurus, they always talk about work-life balance. There's really no balance. There's no balance, and I like to call it harmony, right? It ebbs and flows, and you have a beautiful family. And what are your commitments to that, because you talk about values. You're doing so well in again, we're professionals. We love our job, but sometimes it could hurt us, right? Because we're not with our families.
Yeah.
So how have you really engineered that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'll go back in to say, like, communication is key. I think that's important too in the family life is, dad's still working a job, a career, right? So I still have people I got to serve with. And so if I was in an office from, 8 to 5, that's where dad's going to be. So, communicating with my kids saying, hey, this is my job. This was what I'm able to do to provide for our families. I shared that with them. Granted, my kids are older now. We have 6 kids. We're a blended family. I was married previous for 23 years, and now I got a beautiful wife of 3 years, and man, I love that woman to death. She had 3 kids. I had 3 kids. We like to say we're the Mexican Brady Bunch. 3 boys, 3 girls. So our oldest one is 27. She's about to graduate with her master's degree from Arizona.
There you go.
Our son, he just graduated last year from Boulder.
Oh, wow.
And then our youngest one's going to go into 10th grade this year. So we got we're a diverse family. 3 boys, 3 girls. But communicating with kids across our adult children. Letting them know, like, hey, this is what dad does. This is how we operate. This is, this is how I'm able to serve the family, way of life. Well, one thing I want to point out too is, like, also I leverage those kids, my kids, to the max, right? So they're working events with me. They're passing out flyers. They're door knocking with me. I give them business cards. Where they're working. It's like, hey, don't forget. Don't forget. So you got to leverage them, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's good, as a dad, husband as well. It's always good to hear another dad, right? Another husband talk about how do you engineer that. One thing I'm learning is, right, expectation management, right?
Yep.
And telling your loved ones, listen, this is the expectation. Dad works from 8 to whatever, or is going to do this from here to here. Mm-hmm. But the purpose is I serve our family. And one day you will too, right? And so that's a great reminder for all parents, right? One thing I did love is embedding your children, right? Embedding the family into the real estate, right? People forget there's an estate at the end of real estate, which is is the family.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is your legacy, which is what you technically will leave behind. And so it's good that you get them ingrained, because I've been brainwashing my children since they woke up, since they were born, talking about, like, hey, I need you to carry that torch, right? And so, no, that's awesome. And it's probably a tax write-off too, right? But this mentorship you have in your family, it probably continues, right? Because I think you are an employing broker as well, right? And you probably, the mentorship goes outside of the home, right? Your team, the industry, you as, a professional in the industry, right? And trying to inspire others. Talk about that, like, your maybe your mission or how you envision being a mentor in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just, seeing people's, allowing people to see me where I'm at, like my work ethic, right? And so there's a lot of, I kind of go back to in 2019 when I said I got lonely in the business, and I started developing the team, where I found that through education and through support, you can definitely bring people up. And I don't like to tell people, like, you work for me or any of that. So I like to, like, if you look on my team roster, I call it's like teammate Julian, teammate,
There you go.
So-and-so, like, they're labeled in my phone as teammates, and I always like, hey, we're a team. So just being a mentor to my team through that is like, hey, this is my availability. Here's our objective. Here's our mission. Here's our end state, and sharing with them. And then when things happen, let's take a step back. Let's do an AAR, after action review, right? What worked well, what didn't work well. Applying all those factors that I learned in the service of being able to provide task, purpose, and direction for people. So it goes back to keep it as simple, keep it what I know, and the military is what I know.
The authenticity that you talk about just in your phone, right? Mm-hmm. Teammate. These little friendly reminders keep us, I think, whole, keep us human. Because, as an owner, you got a lot of liability, you got a lot of risk, you're putting a lot of investment, and you can forget, like, hey, man, you're dealing with another veteran, another human, another mother, another, father. And we can quickly forget and have a corporate mentality that, oh, you're an employee or you're an agent, 1099 contractor. You can start labeling them different.
Yeah.
But if you just take that little initiative and say, hey, this is teammate, Daniel. And so, because you may be, these little things that you set up could avoid other problems, because maybe you're mad one day, but then you see teammate and it reminds you, it kind of gives you a warning, like, hey, calm down, this is still your team.
Yeah.
And so that's a great little tip, to help, manage. One thing, and just like we talked about, like, wear it on your chest that you are, a real estate professional 24/7. But I always tell people, you spent 20 plus years in the service. And I think sometimes veterans discard what they learned in the military, or they just don't want to remember those experiences, or they may be embarrassed to apply them. If you're around me, you feel like you're back in the military. The way I talk to my team, the way I talk to even clients. Sometimes I'm just training clients on military lingo. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, this is what we're going to do right here. And I'm applying it to real estate. And it's a foundation that we need to preserve. And so that's good that you're still doing AARs. You're still, applying what you learn.
Do you want to hear a fun fact?
Let's do it.
So fun fact, so when I started the PCS team in 2019, my first business plan, I wrote it as a operation order, 5-paragraph operation order with annexes and everything.
See? It's the way you do it. There's so many things in the military that you can apply to anything in business. It's ridiculous what we do with that. So no, it's again a great reminder. Now, all this success you've had, right? Everything we've talked about, you probably have some success stories.
Yeah.
Or even some challenging stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Please give us some behind the scenes.
Yeah. So, all right, let's just think. Everybody likes drama, right? Everybody likes drama. The most challenging situation I've probably ever had was helping a home seller that did not have enough equity in the home to sell, and I failed to realize that potentially this client's going to have to bring money to the closing table. And when we got that dollar amount, it made me so sick and so upset by myself, right, that I had to bring this problem to my client that I actually threw up in a trash can. Like, I was that stressed. Wow. And that was an early on mistake, right?
Of course, so
nowadays we have those conversations up front, like, hey, in the event if this happens, you may have to bring money to the table. Are you able to do that? Yes or no? If not, then we have to look at other routes to get your house listed. But early on, that was probably one of the most stressful events where, like, it caused that much stress to me that I threw up in the trash can in the office. And because I was like, man, how am I going to have this hard conversation with this client that I know that they're in a financial bind? So that was one. A success story, I think, is meeting people where they're at and helping them overcome situations and easing those stressors. For example, I had a young lady that her and her husband, they were getting ready PCS, and you know how military timelines, like, quick, right? So she was pregnant, and they were about to have a baby, and they were relocating, and so being able to find them the house and coordinating everything from the inspection to all the way through closing, and their transportation coming down this way, taking all that off the husband's plate and the wife's plate, so they could focus on getting here safely where she could give birth to the little one. That was probably one of the most joyful ones that I've had, just because I knew how much stress and pressure they were relocating with your spouse being pregnant. And then upon their arrival, typical Army, guess what? He's deploying.
Oh,
so, so we were able to get them in the house, get them settled, give birth, soldier members, boom, out the door. So doing that. So that, stress one where throwing up in the trash can, the other one where, like, hey, they were get in the house, have a baby, and continue the mission.
No, one, thanks for sharing, right? Yeah. Two, I heard that you realized that you made a mistake. Yeah. And I would say in this market or in the industry, really, there's a lot of egos. Yeah. And they don't have that humility, especially at a young age, because when you just start, you don't want to be wrong. You want to do everything right. Yeah. And if you do something wrong, you're like, is it my fault? And it's great that you understood that. But we all go through that, and it's good that because at the end of the day you cared. Because if you didn't throw up, that means you didn't care, right?
I cared a lot.
Because you cared a lot, right? And so that shows that. And at the end of the day, I think that's what our clients want, is someone they can trust, and part of trust is people who care.
Yes, sir.
Another thing, you talked about what I call coordinating effects, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. We remember the military and how hectic it was because of whatever decision and operations were being made, kind of all blended together. Mm-hmm. And every day it felt like it was a gaga show,
Yeah.
And but those experiences made you ready to handle not only like military life for the clients, but for any civilians. Civilians don't know the coordinating effects that you've experienced, right? Yeah. That to them, they may feel like buying a house is crazy. But you're like, man, I've been doing this for like 20 years. This is easy. We're talking about houses here, And so, no, it's a great reminder, again, to use those experiences and apply them to your transactions.
Yeah.
Man.
Absolutely.
Now, I mean, we could go on, but I think the importance right now is, what does the future look like for you, PCS team, what you want in your, let's say, second career, right? What you want in your future, and what you want probably for the industry or Colorado Springs.
Yeah, great question, Brian. Thanks for asking. The future of the PCS team, I'm getting older. I'm gonna be 46 this year.
Looking good.
Yeah, thank you, man. 46 years old this year, and I had a goal to retire when I was 50.
Okay. There we go.
And so I think, I'm loving what I do day in, day out, and I'm gonna continue the mission until I can. I'm very passionate of where I'm serving at and who I'm serving, that I want to continue that footstep. So, there's a lot of teams out there. You guys are a big team, and it's just, I'm in awe of you guys. Just seeing how you guys operate, I inspire the PCS team can mirror that someday, and can follow suit, because I look up to you guys. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's real talk there. So the future of this is to continue to do good work, to put people first, and to keep serving our community that we live in. And I'll continue that fight every single day I can.
When I ask these questions to people, they'll be like, I need to do $1 billion in value, right? And those outcomes come from these values, these visions that you talk about. Just do good work, serve the community. Because those simple, right? Keeping it simple, those simple values will lead to $100 million production, will lead to, the empirical goals, right? The objectives you want to meet. And so that's great advice for people listening. It's like, yeah, at the end of the day, we all want to be the number one agent, right? But at the end of the day, you really just want to be a good person, a good real estate professional. You want to show up every day for those clients, right?
Yeah.
So it's great to hear that. And I love the goal, like, hey, I want to retire by 50, right? And that's good because, we have a timeline, we have a horizon. Yeah. And if you don't put some sort of, IPR, right? If you don't put some sort of checker, then, where are you going, right? And that's good. It's a good reminder, especially people getting out of the military, right? You probably get out young or you get out older, right? You need to put something on the calendar, right? Yep. So, no, that's awesome. Now, I mean, again, like I could keep going with you all day, but I think I want to make sure that we didn't leave anything out.
Yeah.
Is there like a final message? Is there like some parables you wanna let people know before we say goodbye?
I think the biggest thing is to love, right? Is because there's a lot of negative and a lot of hurtful things in this world, in this community, in this industry. But I think to love, love who you are, love your family, love your community, and just to love, man. I'm gonna get emotional, but I think love is so important that it has to be displayed, and I try to tell people I love you all the time where I go. I love what you're doing. I think it needs to be shown more.
Do you have a reason why love is something that comes up to you?
Yeah,
is it something you
absolutely.
experienced?
I think there's, I think it's a lot of people are untold. They're not loved. I see, you see what's going on on social media, on the news networks, of the effects of not hearing that word. Like I was even this morning at the gym, right? I walked out and I was pushing the door out, walking out the gym, and I said, if anybody has not told you today that you're loved, you're valued, let me be the one.
Wow.
And I said that, and the lady was like, "What'd you say?" And I said, "If you haven't been told that you're loved and valued, let me be that one." And she said, "Thank you." So
wow.
I think it's important to just share it. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to. You gotta love a person for who they are. Like I love who you are, what you're doing, what you're setting up. Bringing us into this podcast to let our voice, let our stories be told. I love that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Wow. The reason I probed a little bit is because there's a purpose behind that, and it's crazy because in the military we're all tough. Right?
Yeah.
Ain't no love,
Yeah.
and I love that because it obviously displays the humility, but also the vulnerability because you are exposing yourself to someone else, and hopefully maybe they don't love you back, right?
Yeah.
And so it's extremely thoughtful, and how you apply it to this day and age where we're just clouded by all the noise, and especially in the younger generation,
So
right?
true.
Do they feel dignified? And it's crazy, with our your children, our children, like if we forget that, just to take a moment and realize to someone that you are valued, and you take it a step further, right, in the military, with the suicide rate, the veterans, by themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes they forget that their battle buddy, they have battle buddies out there, and I'm hopefully that we can take this message that Daniel talked about continuing that love, right? That love, and really learning from Daniel. So Daniel, I hope they can find you on all different social media platforms, right?
Let's go.
Yeah, and reach out to you. You're a great man, and I can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me be here.
Of course. That's right, America. Duty Honor Real Estate is complete with episode 17. This was incredible, and the next one's going to be even more incredible. See you guys soon.